U.S. Democratic candidate Harris leads in 4 swing states.
For fair pay, better benefits, safer working conditions, and every person in America benefits from your work. I tell people everywhere I go.
1 killed and 15 wounded in an Israeli strike on southern suburbs of Beirut. And talks with Fatah and Hamas officials resume in Cairo under Egyptian efforts to reach ceasefire in Gaza discuss detainees issue. You're now watching Qnews, and we begin tonight's bulletin with the latest developments in the United States, days ahead of the presidential election.
We will build what I call an opportunity economy.
We will make America great.
We're ready to fight for it. As one people, we are moving forward.
We will make America safe again.
A poll by The Times has showed U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris leading in the swing states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. Harris is currently tied with her Republican rival Donald Trump in Arizona. The poll suggests Harris could become the first female U.S. president. Another poll from YouGov shows Trump leading Harris in Georgia and North Carolina.
For fair pay, better benefits, safer working conditions, and every person in America benefits.
Washington's governor has announced preparations with the National Guard amid concerns of potential election-related violence. Meanwhile, business in Washington, D.C. closed, with some boarding up windows in anticipation of unrest. During a rally in Wisconsin, Democratic candidate Kamala Harris has accused Trump of failing to improve Americans' lives and expressed confidence in winning next Tuesday's elections. Meanwhile, Republican candidate Donald Trump urged Wisconsin residents to vote for him, stating that Harris should be told enough on Tuesday. Trump asserted he is leading in multiple states, but called on voters to secure his victory. The Arizona Attorney General's office is investigating whether Trump violated state law in his remarks about former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. The Attorney General noted it remains unclear if Trump's comments qualify as protected free speech or a criminal threat.
There with 9 barrel shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Russia denies claims of involvement in spreading videos alleging violations in the U.S. election. The Russian embassy in the U.S. called U.S. intelligence accusations baseless. In the escalating U.S. presidential race, candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are intensifying their campaigns in crucial swing states, aiming to sway undecided voters ahead of Election Day.
As the U.S. presidential race heats up, Candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are intensifying efforts in critical swing states, recognizing their decisive role in the election outcome. Vice President Kamala Harris is on an extensive tour this weekend, making stops in key states like Georgia and North Carolina. With celebrity support from Jennifer Lopez, Jon Bon Jovi, and DJ Khaled, Harris aims to boost voter turnout among young people and communities of color. Her running mate, Tim Walz, is focusing on the Southwest, particularly Nevada and Arizona, alongside Eva Longoria to appeal to Latino voters. Meanwhile, Trump holds a narrow lead in several battleground states, including Nevada, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, capitalizing on support from conservative and rural voters. He emphasizes his commitment to economic revitalization, as well as law and order, with polls indicating a slight advantage across many critical states, edging him closer to the 270 electoral votes required for victory. Despite a traditional Democrat lead in early voting, Republicans have almost closed the gap, with more than 70 million ballots already cast. Both campaigns are sparing no effort to win over undecided voters in these final days. Expect high-profile endorsements and rallies as each candidate makes a final push to secure support before Election Day.
And for more analysis, we now move to Hani in our newsroom. Hani.
Thank you, Mona. For further analysis on the latest developments regarding the U.S. elections, we are joined from Washington by the Middle East Policy Council scholar, Mr. Marco Mossad. Mr. Mossad, thank you for joining us here on Q News. Now, everybody knows the decisiveness of the swing states. How do you see Trump and Harris's movements and strategies in the swing states in the upcoming period?
Thank you, Hani, for having me. I wouldn't rely heavily on the polls because the polls are different and their results are different and are against each other, and that's why I don't rely that much on the polls and its results. And for one reason, also, it's not that accurate, and for the second reason, many of the elderly white voters or rural voters, they don't believe in that. They believe only on just casting their ballots on the day of the election, which is November 5th. So what I would rely on, or what really attracts me, is the messages that is coming from the Trump campaign, that he wants to reestablish his relationship with minorities. So minorities is the key bone of the backbone of the Harris campaign or the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party relies heavily on the minorities in the United States. So if we are talking about minorities in the United States, like shifting their votes towards the Republicans, so I think this is a huge win, and I think we have to think more about that. So what I'm talking about minorities, I'm talking about the Arab Muslims and also Christian Coptic, all of that stuff, all of these voters, and they are very decisive in Michigan, and also they are very decisive because we are talking about tight race. So every minority and every group of people, or either like religious-based group or either ethnic group or anything, that's very, very decisive and very important. So I feel like Trump campaign is playing now a very political role in just attracting these groups or these minorities. So we have seen this relationship that's growing with the Arab Muslims in Michigan. So I feel like this is a historic step from the Trump campaign. We are talking about the Muslim Arab. They are shifting, or they were voting for the Democratic Party since the 2000s, or since the George Bush conducted the war against Afghanistan first and then Iraq. So I think that the Arab or the Muslim voters felt left away. So that's why they kept voting for the Democratic Party since then. And now they are shifting towards the Republican Party again, because there are many similarities between the Arab or the conservative people and the Republican Party. Both are conservative, both are supporting open businesses, reducing taxes and all of that stuff. So I feel like this is a historic step from the Trump campaign to have this relationship with the Arab American voters. And it will not stop here. It will also goes to the future presidential or state or local elections.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Mossad, now, as you've mentioned, Trump emphasized attracting the Arab citizens in the United States due to the policies of the Biden administration. How does this reflect on the Biden administration, and do you believe that these statements are genuine? How would you think the Harris campaign would respond or counter these efforts?
So, if you are talking about the Arab voters, they suffered because of the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and they tried to reach out to the Democratic Party multiple times, and we have seen that. We have seen that the Arab delegation were standing in front of the DNC. They're trying to reach out, and they're trying to have a chance to speak in front of the people, just to deliver the message, but no one gave them the chance. And but they give the chance only to the Jewish activists here in the United States. So I feel like the Arab voters have grievance against the Democratic Party, and you would love to punish them in the election. And you have seen that, like, since the uncommented movement, then they try to not vote for Biden within the primaries in Michigan. Right now, before Trump reached out to the Arab and Muslim community in Michigan, I feel like they were trying to reorganize their situation, and some of them, or some of the leaders, were saying we will vote for Schleestein, which is like a third party, or the Green Party. I feel like this is one of the worst choice or option. Why? Because they are splitting their votes, and they were Schleestein has no chance of winning this election. So if I were you, I would go to Trump and then put my rules and put my terms, and he has to accept it because he needs you. So that's why this is what happened. I feel like the Trump campaign heard that and took the chance, took the advantage of that, because the separation, or there's no good relationship right now between the Arab and Muslims, and the Kamala Harris campaign, they're not reaching out to them. There's no way to do that in the near future. That's why the Trump campaign took the chance of that, and I feel like this is very smart for both sides, for the Republicans and also for the Arab community, because they told the Trump campaign that they need to see a ceasefire, and they need to see peace in the Middle East, and this is one of the goals of the Trump administrations, or one of the goals of his foreign policy when it comes to the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Could we be witnessing some surprises in the voting of certain states during the upcoming U.S. presidential elections?
I think so. I think we will have more surprises, not only with the 7 swing states. I would say there are 2 or 3 states that are witnessing or are in play right now. Maybe they are shifting towards the Republicans, or maybe shifting towards the Blues or the Democrats. So I would say, we have to think about the swing states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia, North Carolina. But we have to think about some states like Virginia. Virginia is in play right now. There are so much work from the Republican Party. They need to shift it, or to need to just flip it towards the Reds or towards the Republican Party. So I would say that this is my expectation. I would expect huge surprises when it comes to the U.S. election, and we see now that this race is very tight, but the result will be very surprising, and I feel like will be a huge margin when it comes to the electoral votes. So we know that 270 is the magic number. If someone reaches to it, then they will be the president. But I feel like there will be huge margin, and because there will something happen in these 2-3 states that I'm talking about.
Yes. Few days separate us, ladies and gentlemen. That was the Middle East Policy Council scholar, Mr. Marco Mossad. Thank you, Mr. Mossad, for joining us. Mona, back to you.
Thank you so much, Hani, for the analysis. And moving on to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Lebanese Health Ministry has reported that at least 1 person has been killed and 15 wounded in an airstrike on the southern suburbs of Beirut. The strike was on Gallery Sam'an. Yes, right. The statement said that 6 of the wounded suffer serious injuries. 2 Lebanese civilians have been killed and others have been injured in Israeli warplanes targeting villages in the Tyr and Bint Jbeil districts in southern Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes destroyed a residential block, including public and private services, near the Imam Hussein complex in Tyr. Heavy gunfire also targeted the outskirts of Naqoura, Jabal al-Labuna and Alam Ashab. Sirens have been sounded in northern Israel over areas close to borders with Lebanon. The Israeli occupation forces stated that a number of suspicious aerial targets crossed from Lebanon into northern Israel and that sirens sounded several times. The Israeli Occupation Army has also reported that 10 rockets were launched from Lebanon towards Haifa Bay and the Galilee, with some intercepted while others landed in open areas. Sirens also sounded last night in Tel Aviv and its surroundings as the army noted additional rocket launches from Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israeli police confirmed 19 inquiries from a rocket hitting the town of Tyr in central Israel. Israel's public broadcaster has reported that the Israeli Occupation Army is nearing the end of the phase of its ground operation in southern Lebanon, which began a month ago. Thousands of Occupation Army troops and reserve soldiers are expected to be released by the weekend. The broadcaster claimed the operation has achieved significant goals, including uncovering Hezbollah's infrastructure. And moving on to the latest developments in Gaza. A senior security Egyptian source has reported that Hamas is insisting on rights fragmenting negotiations due to fears that releasing detainees could lead to renewed Israeli fire. The source has indicated that Egypt continues its efforts with both Palestinian and Israeli parties to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid. It was further noted that Egypt is making intensive efforts to resume stalled negotiations that have been inactive since July. The meetings between Fatah and Hamas, taking place in Cairo through the Community Support Committee, are deemed purely Palestinian affairs, according to the source, which highlighted that both Fatah and Hamas have demonstrated increased flexibility and positivity regarding the establishment of the Community Support Committee. Gaza-based health authorities have confirmed the Palestinian death toll from the Israeli onslaught since October 7th has exceeded 43,300, with more than 102,000 individuals sustaining injuries. They also reported that Israeli occupation forces committed several massacres against families in the Gaza Strip over the last 24 hours, killing at least 55 Palestinians and injuring 186 others. 5 Palestinians have been killed and others have been injured in the Israeli airstrikes targeting Tennis House displaced people in the Nusayrat camp, central Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reported that Israeli warplanes also targeted several neighborhoods in the Gaza city, including Zaytun and Sabra. The Israeli occupation army has committed 2 massacres in northern Gaza's Jabalia, hitting residential buildings housing over 170 civilians. Palestinian media confirmed that at least 84 deaths, including over 50 children, with dozens more missing or injured. Palestinian media outlets have reported that the bodies of 5 Palestinian victims were retrieved from under homes in northern Nusayrat camp after airstrikes targeted homes in the camp in central Gaza. Al-Auda hospital received several victims and injuries, while nearby areas were also shelled by artillery. Overnight, Israel continued to demolish residential buildings in northern Nusayrat. Moving on to economy, Fitch Ratings has upgraded Egypt's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating from B- to B, with a stable outlook, highlighting improvement in external finances, exchange rate, flexibility and policy reforms. Fitch reported that Egypt's international reserves rose by $11.4 billion to $44.5 billion in 2024, boosted by the Ras Al Hikma investment and increased non-resident holdings of domestic debt, reducing reliance on external borrowing on international funding, including an $8 billion IMF facility and 7.4 billion euros in EU support has helped cover the current account deficit. Foreign direct investment is expected to average $16.5 billion annually through 2026, bolstering economic resilience. Israel's cabinet is voting on strict austerity budget to address soaring defense costs stemming from the ongoing war on Gaza and Lebanon. The budget includes 40 billion shekels in cuts and tax hikes, including raising the value-added tax to 18% as part of fiscal tightening measures. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized economic restraints, stating there is no economy without restrictions. The budget allocates 102 billion shekels for defense out of a total 744 billion shekels, aiming to reduce Israel's deficit from 8.5% to 4% of GDP. According to data released by Switzerland's Statistics Office, Swiss inflation dropped to its lowest level in over 3 years in October. This decline suggests that the Swiss National Bank may implement further interest rate cuts this year and into 2025. Consumer prices in Switzerland increased by 0.6% in October compared to the same month last year. According to Federal Statistics Office data, this marks the smallest price increase since July 2021, driven by lower costs for food, clothing, and household goods. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. U.S. Democratic candidate Harris leads in 4 swing states.
We all rise or
1 killed and 15 wounded in an Israeli strike on the southern suburbs of Beirut. And talks with Fatah and Hamas officials resume in Cairo under Egyptian efforts to reach ceasefire in Gaza discuss detainees issue. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok on Qnews EGY to stay informed. For real-time updates, connect with us on the UMS digital platform. Watch it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.